they really enjoyed it. So I'll share it again if we can and get it going.
Yeah. Sharing my timeline.
They're
Sharing.
like, who's that guy? Is that guy another fighter? He has like way more knowledge. These guys don't know about striking. And I said, yeah, Chino, don't sleep on Chino, man. Put some
Yeah,
gloves on him. Watch out
yeah,
now.
I got some jokes, but I also got hands, boy. You're getting this live set up. I gotta go in and do the typey types too, but I'm already recording this for YouTube as well. So, all right. Say
If
something
you ever
about
come to Portland, I think I told you, man, you could always just stay at my house and freaking just do whatever. If you can ever do comedy up here again, I don't know what.
dude.
Portland's pretty gay.
Definitely, I come up to Portland all the time. Portland, Washington, constantly. Of course, Pacific Northwest can be a little touchy with comedy, but they've always been super kind to me. So,
Like Portland's actually pretty cool. Like I love Portland and stuff and the people and like, but the government is like, they suck.
dude, it's state by state, and everybody's state dropping the ball really hard on this. So,
Yeah.
brought to you by a BJJ black belt and a professional stoner by BJJ black belt Don Stoner and professional stoner Chino LaForge.
I did this gnarly workout today, Tuesday, called the Murph. Have you ever heard of that? It's after this Navy SEAL guy who died, and they dedicated it to him. 100 pull-ups, 300 air squats, 200 push-ups, and a mile run at the front and the back of the workout.
Oh, no, thank you. That sounds awful.
My buddy today, one of my students today just did it. He's pretty fit, and he did 3 rounds of it, and he ended up puking.
Jeez. Ugh, that sounds bad, man.
Wrestling, bro.
I got a total gym, and I'm good on that, man. I'm just trying to do maintenance at this point. I'm getting old. All right, I'm gonna hit the go live button now. So we're about to go.
And then where can I share it?
I'm already tagging you in it. Once we go live, you can just go to your Facebook while I'm doing the intro, and just share my post from my Facebook to yours, and then should be fine.
Got it.
All right, going live now.
Can you hear that train in the background?
Nope.
Okay, cool.
Hear the train coming. And it looks like we're live. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Thanks for tuning in to Stoner versus Stoner. It's the podcast where we break down the UFC fights as well as any mixed martial arts or jiu-jitsu events that go on. From my analysis, Chino LaForge, a professional stoner, as well as the other stoner on this podcast, different stoner of types. He's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt and competitor in Submission Underground. Ladies and gentlemen, Don Stoner.
What's up, everybody?
He's my partner in crime on this show for Stoner versus Stoner. It's good to have some credibility in the house. I'm just a joke slinger who knows how to use my hands a little bit, but this guy is the real deal. If anything, he gives this podcast total fight credibility. So thank you, Don, for doing that and for bringing us some. You're the adult. You're the one I'm going to go to anytime I have any questions about real stuff.
Watch out now.
So let's start by talking about the biggest thing in the MMA and fight world. Fight Island is up and running and fully operational. Don, is it what you expected?
Fight Island was pretty awesome. UFC went above and beyond. making the production and making sure that we can have fights and setting up this crazy island on Yaz Island. And from the guys that I know personally that were over there, they just said from top to bottom, it was like the most secure island ever. And you could see from all the UFC preview stuff and all of the episodes that they really made sure it was secure. And as far as the fight card itself, I thought it delivered. I thought that, despite the several fighters tested for COVID, not being able to fight, it was an awesome card. And they delivered from top to bottom. It was a fantastic card. Not as many finishes as everybody wanted to see, but who cares? There were just brawls and there was amazing fights. So yeah, I loved it, man.
Yeah, everybody definitely brought their A game for Fight Island. There's something in the air with the fights where once you tell everybody we're building an island specifically for fighting, people kind of bring out the inner darkness that dwells within, or that last little bit of extra. As far as expectation goes, however, I'm going to be honest. When I heard Fight Island, I was expecting something a little bit more Mortal Kombat style. I was expecting, like the ring on a beach with the sunlight being the lighting of the arena. But, of course, it's a little over proportion. I get that's overblown. That's unrealistic, of course. You can't have fighters fighting in, the Dubai sun in the middle of a man-made island. I understand that's not realistic, but, it did feel like they made a really fast auditorium. They did a great job building a venue that looked like a venue. My only problem with it is that it looked too much like a venue. I feel like they didn't really embrace the island in the Fight Island. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah. It should have been on the sand or like a plexiglass thing on top of water.
Whoa!
Something like that.
Now we're getting somewhere. An actual Fight Island, like a literal. The ring is an island, and see, Don. Why aren't you in the creative room? This is why I picked you first. You're my professional. Don't be giving them any ideas. But I thought they did a fantastic job as far as testing the fighters. There was only one positive fighter that had to, and Burns couldn't fight in his fight. But what a great misfortune, because then we got to see Jorge Masvidal finally get the contract numbers that he wanted, finally got the fight that we all wanted, but only on 6 days' notice. Was it the fight we wanted?
Yeah, I think so. It was a great fight. The fight happened a lot like how it should have happened, as far as the Kamaru being like the new GSP. His cage control was exceptional. Masvidal stuffed almost every takedown. I think he stuffed something like 11 takedowns, got taken down twice. And the fight played out a lot like it should have. I don't think that Masvidal, I want to say, I know Masvidal was training, like they were saying, when you're at Masvidal's level, he was ready to fight somebody, just maybe not a Kamaru. Now he needed a longer training camp. A guy like that, he really needed a full training camp to be able to take out Kamaru. I think if they fight again, it'll be a different fight than the one that we saw. But it was a great fight, right? Masvidal was able to get his double underhooks. The way he was getting double underhooks on Kamaru, stopping the takedown with the double underhooks every time, was just exactly what he needed to do to get out of those bad situations. And then he got Kamaru off, started piecing him up on the feet. You could definitely tell the levels of striking that were at play with Masvidal. But that being said, Kamaru really surprised me with his striking. I mean, weren't you surprised at some of the shots that he landed? Some of the shots, or
I would be had I not paid close attention to his climb. There was a couple of high end grapplers that he kind of took his his striking out on early on in his championship runs. I'm forgetting names, unfortunately, but namely in his two first top 10 appearances, he made quick work of a couple of fighters, not utilizing the clinch, but by working his jab heavily and doing a great job getting that outside foot in. He did as best as he could with Masvidal, but I mean, at a certain point, I feel like we could tell that it was kind of reminiscent of like an adult talking down to a teenager as far as skill levels, where it's like, sure, the teenager can make some basic points, but not really much there in terms of defending what's behind it and making sure that it was fully taken advantage of. I mean, I think that if Usman would have indulged Masvidal in more striking, that would have been the worst idea for him. I think the spread would have only become more apparent. But I mean, when you're Usman and you have that many tools and that many options, I mean, why take any route that isn't the one that he took? It was by far the smartest game plan to have against Jorge Masvidal, because that guy's dangerous. He's dangerous. He's so dangerous. Even off his back, we saw him throwing sharp elbows and you know, even if it is out of desperation, it just shows the amount of fight in the dog. So that's a guy that you don't want a 5-round fight where you're not completely on top of him the entire time. So yeah, no, I completely agree. The best strategy, the best execution possible. Do you think Masvidal could have done more with a 6-week camp though? If he had 6 weeks of training versus 6 days, do you think the outcome would have changed?
On the conditioning side of things, I think it would have changed. He even commented like he wants to come back with a 6-pack, and you could see his body difference from when he fought Diaz for the BMF title and when he fought Kamaru. He was holding a little more fat, and he wasn't. So his body wasn't conditioned the same way that it was. So
and you really see the difference between a healthy weight cut and a drastic fast weight cut.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see the difference right there. Cut 20 pounds, but that was the 20 pounds before the fight, right? So who knows what he had to cut when he got the call.
Right.
Well,
he could have had like a piece of pizza in his mouth as somebody's like, "Hey, we need you to fight in 6 days." Like, all right, let's get ready to do this.
The only way to do that cut is a water cut, right? So he can't diet his food down. He can't cut out certain foods weeks before and taper his weight off. He has to do a drastic weight cut where he water loads 6 days, 3 days out, and then he starts cutting his water. And then the last couple of days, he has no water whatsoever. And guys, now it's a complete science where they know exactly where they need to be. And even like the coaches will tell them if they're not at that goal where they need to be hours before the fight, they'll call the fight off because they know the fighter's in danger. Where before you used to just put on a sauna suit and jog.
Yeah.
So the weight cuts now, it's way more scientific. But answering your question, I think it would still be a different fight. And it could very well be just Masvidal landing a few more shots, a few more kicks than he did. He maybe still would get out wrestled. But Masvidal's made so many strides in his wrestling game, and you can see it. And he was talking about his secret sauce, his special training partner. And I don't think he ever touched upon it in the whole fight thing, but I believe it was a guy named Bone Nichols, who's one of the best wrestlers right now, who actually had a super fight against one of the best jiu-jitsu guys, Gordon Ryan, and suplexed the crap out of him and just dominate. He dominates everybody. This guy, Bone Nichols, if he comes in the UFC or goes to MMA, he's going to do very, very well. And I want to say he's a better wrestler than Kamaru. So the fact that Masvidal had a really, really good wrestler in his camp, he had confidence in the takedown game. But maybe he didn't focus as much on striking, which is the thing that guys do a lot, because he's just so confident in his striking. So it was It was a great fight. What can I say? It was entertaining. You know, it was not a snooze fest to where I mean, I was not bored saying, man, stand him up, because Masvidal did everything to do is the very second that he had a chance, he got his double underhooks, he got away, and then he started landing combos.
I, I,
Fun.
I do know a lot of MMA fans that are not non-MMA fans, people who aren't into the entirety of the sport. Some of them had some harsh words to say about the main event, but that doesn't really matter because there was so many fights to choose from on this card. Let's just go ahead and talk about the rest of the card while we're here. Before that fight, we had Alexander Volkanovski versus Max Holloway, which did not disappoint. I mean, the decision may have disappointed. There's a lot of people who were unhappy with the decision, myself included. Being a Hawaiian, loving the Hawaiian fighters, I thought Max had it. I thought he did enough in the first three. It's a debatable fight, though. It was a great fight. There's no one who could take anything away from those two men. They spent 50 minutes inside of the octagon so far together. See, at this point, I know that one fighter has two victories and the other doesn't, but with a debatable loss like that, it feels like you would want to do a rematch. However, these guys have spent 50 minutes in the octagon in the past 6 months together. What do you think, Don? Should we do a trilogy or should we let it rest for a little bit?
I would give Volkanovski one more contender and then have the next fight. And Maxi baby should do very well in his next fight too. So give them both one more fight, see how that plays out. But I want to see a trilogy because it's so close. These guys are so very close. I love it how Max made the adjustments this fight, and he knew that Volkanovski ducked his head, so he came in with that real nice uppercut left hook combo and was landing it just on cue, especially in the early rounds. And then he was mixing up with the high kick, and he just really made the adjustments. But man, Volkanovski's just, I don't know what's up with him. I mean, I think maybe it's the fact that he was 300 pounds, rugby player, and just doesn't give a hoot about getting hit in the head.
He's a monster with a great camp. He's got a fantastic camp in his corner. They really strategized well against Max the first time around. You know, when you're looking at a fighter in that weight class who has such a humongous height advantage. I mean, Max looks like an older brother to all of the fighters he's faced in the featherweight division. And it's easy to see that. He towers over everybody. And Volkanovski's camp did a great job of telling him to circle towards the power hand just so he can cut the angle on the inside, or the inside of the leg kick. So when you cut that angle, normally you run into the danger of being to the power hand. But Max isn't known for laying on a lot of power early on in the fight, especially when he's fighting somebody he respects. So he did a good job of understanding, okay, he's not going to give us the power. Let's circle that power hand and come in with an inside angle and chop up that leg. The first fight, they executed the strategy perfectly. Even still debatable on the decision. I mean, as far as it really depends on how you see leg kicks in MMA. Are leg kicks as valuable as a head strike? Are they as culpable as a body strike? You know, a lot of judges now are considering leg kicks to be just as effective in the scoring as, say, the body kick ratio or body punch ratio or head punch ratio, which is interesting. I think it's interesting. It's taking our fight system into a new genre that is looking more like a mix of like Muay Thai scoring with like a bit of like Philippines Pecan Sayant style of point scoring, where it's really kind of muddying things up a little bit. And in the second fight, Max did a great job of laying on the power early on, picking his angles, like you said, splitting the center with that uppercut, knowing that Alexander likes to dip center, especially when he's not afraid to circle the power hand. And you notice he threw a lot less kicks. And anytime he circled towards the power hand, he ate power. That's where that knockdown in the first round came in. He was trying to set up for the leg kick the same way he did in the first fight, and the door was closed. So, Great job adjusting from his team. Great job wearing down Max, getting him tired, and making sure he didn't have much left in the tank for 4 and 5.
Yeah, and for me, the deciding factor were the takedowns from Volkanovski. I think if if Maxi would have stopped the takedowns, it would have been a very closer fight.
I agree, but Max also had 2 knockdowns. So when you compare the 2-3 takedowns to 2 knockdowns, it's like it's that discussion again of like, well, are they worth the same amount of points? Because anybody who's been in a fight knows that you'd rather get taken down than get knocked down. No matter what your situation in a fight, a takedown you can come back from relatively quickly. A knockdown, you're going to need a second, and you're in a very disadvantageous position. So do you feel like our current scoring system is at the peak of the evolution of the sport, or do you think that the scoring system is going to evolve beyond what we have?
It definitely should evolve. It definitely should evolve. You know, like when you're talking about leg kicks being as much as a body or a head kick. And I can see that with the scoring system. I don't agree with that. Especially when you have a guy like Volkanovski. I mean, he can shoot off, 20 kicks in a round, no problem. But Max wasn't really phased too much in this fight with the leg kicks. So yeah, the striking system needs to evolve beyond where we're at. Yeah, but I just think of, when I think of this fight, Volkanovski, think about like the first fight, it was the leg kicks that really gave Maxi a hard game. And then so Maxi said, you know what, this fight, I'm just going to come in and I have to finish him. I can't play points. So he tried to finish him in the early rounds, got really close, but didn't. And then ended up getting taken down, getting a new tool used against him. So that just gives me like a way more respect for Volkanovski, the fact that he maybe is getting to be a little better, maybe a better fighter than Maxi as far as all the tools in his toolbox. I don't know, but I can't count out Max Holloway at all.
Right, and like I said, to take nothing away from Alex, because holy shit, what a fight! What a fight he put on, and I can't stress enough that adjustments are what wins fights. It's not always just what you come in there with, but it's how you adapt to a fight and how a fight can change. And it's important for you to be in the fight and not just be in the camp. You need to really be present when it comes to fight night, because when it comes to the amount of levels of creativity that we're talking about between Volkanovski and Holloway, I mean, it's through the roof. Holloway feels like a seasoned veteran, but he's only 28, 29. Volkanovski is young too. He's a young stud. He's on the climb. So this is just the representation of just how quickly the sport evolves in front of you, and how if you're not constantly revitalizing your tools and changing your game, somebody will figure you out. And it's important to continue to change the dial. Who do you think that they can throw at Volkanovski to be a good in-between fight? And who do you think Holloway is going to take for an in-between?
And I would probably go with, what are the choices? I think I actually like Kelvin Kattar as a guy who I think has a really good chance to beat Volkanovski.
He put on a big show. He beat Dan Ige to a pulp for 5 rounds. Thanks for bringing another Hawaiian losing in the same breath. Man, that hurts. But no, he just absolutely dominated Dan Ige. And I'm an Ige fan, man. That kid's got heart. He's got all the tools. He's got power. And, man, 50K just was on sale. He was on sale last night. He got hammered down by Kattar, who's just no joke. It's that's not a bad call. I think Cater's only just barely into the top 15, though. So
yeah, that's why I'm kind of questionable. I think that's a guy who could have a very good fight against him, if not beat him in the future. I
think Kattar and Holloway for a feeder would make a little bit more sense, just because I don't think Cater's ready for a title shot just like that. But maybe they'd give it to somebody like Brian Ortega. Lost his last fight to Max, but, other than that, has really showed a lot of growth. He's a needle mover. He still does all those Modelo commercials, so it's not like they won't sell. There's a lot to think about there. Also, the fight before that, Peter Yan versus Jose Aldo. Man, another. I want to say a war, but it was only a war for that first round until the end of that first round. After that, it was all Yan.
We'll talk about another guy who's similar to Max Holloway, young in age but high in on
mileage. Yeah.
mileage. So that's something to keep in consideration with it. But Holloway, Aldo's just, I mean, he just showed how good he is and everything. And those first couple rounds, again, he won those first couple rounds. He maybe he won one out of the 3 rounds. I can't remember exactly what he won out of those first rounds, but he did really, 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 really good in those first fights. But Peter Yan was expecting Aldo to burn it out. You could tell Peter Yan wasn't throwing too much. In round 1, he hardly threw anything. And then round 2, he threw a little more. And then as the fight matured, he threw more and more. And then he ended up breaking down Aldo when he found out Aldo was gassed. Landed an amazing body shot on the ground. And I don't know if it was a rib, but Aldo's not going to give up. So.
Yeah, it looked like either a rib, potentially a liver shot. I couldn't tell what side it was on, but it looked right in that liver, pancreas area. It looked like it hit some. That didn't look like a rib, because normally when you hit a rib, there's a little bit of like a delayed response where you see like an adjustment of like, ow. It's like a delayed realization. But when you hit a liver, when you hit the pancreas, when you hit any of those organs right around here in the top bar, it's instant. You don't even feel it. And that's what tells me that was an internal organ, because Jose Aldo's got the best stone poker face in the fight game. I don't think I've ever seen that guy, even when he was like look hurt, but he looked hurt. I think he might have hit some guts on that shot. Whatever it was, it hit pay dirt, that's for sure. Yeah. And then we also had Rose Namajunas and Jessica Andrade, the second time around. A little bit of redemption for Rose. No Daniel Cormier there to yell about it, unfortunately.
Dog Rose.
Dog Rose. That would have been nice. But a great fight. Rose turned up the temperature real early on. We'll talk about her striking real quick. Quick to the toes. She was very quick to close the distance. Used her length. Used every tool that she's been carving out over her career, and it just seemed even sharper. She did get a little gassed, which shows a little bit of ring rust. It's been a while since she's been back in, and I don't think she was hesitant. She didn't look scared of Jessica Andrade. She didn't look scared to close the distance or to get into the clinch or any of that. She engaged heavily, came up straight through the middle, just like she does. Jessica Andrade made some adjustments. By the 3rd round, she was the fighter who was a little bit more, had a little more gas in the tank. She started laying it on her, picking her angles a little bit better, started bruising her up, really messed up her eye real good. But in the end, I agree with the points too. Rose Namajunas came out with a decision with a point or 2 point, depending on which judge you went through. I think it was a great fight for women's MMA in general, just because there's a lot of fights between great MMA fighters in the female divisions where you see one fighter who is very talented, and you see them showcase their talents against somebody who's not on the same level. There's a lot of mismatched fights in the female division just because the talent pool is still building. That's going to happen. But when you do get to the top 3 of every division, you are treated to these amazing fights of women who want to win so badly, and they just don't have the torque of the upper body generated that the middleweights of men and up can get, where you get the lights out power. So you see a lot of female fighters swing with everything they've got for 3 rounds. I mean, this reminds me of the old days of the UFC, Don. What do you think about that? Like, now that the female fighters are kind of cutting loose a little bit more. Have you noticed that?
Oh yeah. Cutting loose, getting after it. Absolutely beautiful. It's just interesting in that fight where, you have Rose, who was winning the early rounds, it looked like, and then Jessica kind of turned it up. Jessica lands with so much power. And I don't know. I don't know if I agree completely with that decision. I love Rose Namajunas, and everything she stands for, and her technical ability. It looks like she made adjustments in this fight, but I don't know. I would have liked to see Andrade do more takedowns. I think she has just a beastie double leg takedown. She wasn't using as much, you know.
I agree that Andrade did more of the damage. At the end of the fight, you looked at the two fighters, it looked like Rose got her ass kicked. But as far as like the numbers go, when we're doing the round by round scoring system still, if we're going by that old style, the archaic style, the one that we're talking about needs to be changed. I had it scored out two rounds to 1 for Rose, but I can see Andrade winning that fight and the audience not being overwhelmed with disagreement on that. It was a great fight, and to think that this is the same division that we just saw Weili and Joanna Jędrzejczyk go at it. So it's like, man, what is this next fight gonna look like?
Yeah.
Oh my! I don't think we're ready as far as fans who, specifically for myself, who's one of the biggest female MMA advocates. I don't know if the world is ready to see the war that's about to happen between Rose Namajunas and Weili, provided that it's the right Rose that shows up to the fight.
Right.
Yeah, because we've seen what an unfocused Rose looks like, and it's not miles away from what the most focused Rose looks like. It is inches, but in the game of inches, like, that's a big difference, especially against a competitor like Weili. How do you see that fight going?
That's gonna be an absolute war, and I agree with you with the Rose and Andrade fight, the Weili and Joanna JJ fight, JJ. How do you say her name? It just is like that division's just waiting. It's like it's just ready to bust open, and I think we're gonna see a new. I think that's gonna put women's MMA even at a higher level, because these women are technical. They have all the skills. They they have the ground. They have the striking. Wrestling is decent, but overall they have pretty much all the skills, and I think that's what's going to make people huge fans in the sport, seeing these types of wars. And yeah, man, slowly but surely I'm becoming a fan of women's MMA.
I will drag you to the side if you have to come kicking and screaming. You'll want to be here when it happens, trust me. But no, it was a great fight, and it was on the tails off of. We'll talk about the first fight of the card, or at least the main card. Paige VanZant versus Amanda Ribas, which was not the fight that everybody was expecting. I'm gonna be honest. A lot of people, especially myself as a fan, I didn't expect Ribas to be the first one for Paige to come back to. First of all, Ribas is on a hot streak. She won her last 2 fights, both in fantastic fashion too, and unfortunately Paige VanZant was no exception to the rule, and fell victim to a submission real quick. Paige is coming off of a surgery, coming off an 18-month layoff, not having a lot of fights, not really. I didn't see her do any like competitive grappling tournaments or anything, so it's not like she's been in the competition spotlight for a while. But she has been training. If you follow her Instagram, then there's no shortage of the hard work. Don, what do you think? What do you think happened in that fight?
It's the case of the old thing where when the fighters on their last fight in the contract, it's a very tough spot to be in. Obviously, it's their last fight, and the UFC used to have a track record of, if they want to get rid of somebody, putting them against just a killer that nobody knows about. They want to build them up. And then if they're having issues with the person, whether it be contract negotiations, money, X, Y, and Z, they're going to put them up against that killer with the chance that they can kill, 2 birds with 1 stone, I guess you could say. And that's what it looked like to me. I would have liked to see Paige get a fight that was more, I don't want to say winnable, because I think she could have won that fight. But, hats off to Paige. I mean, Paige is like one of these these fighters that every time she brawls, every time it's a bloodbath, every time you're going to see jujitsu, stand up, she gets after it. And unfortunately, when you have that type of style against a technician like Rebus, it leaves a lot of holes. And so that's how it happened. It just happened so fast. Paige, just head up, stand up, and just started swinging and slugging, which is what the fans want. But it wasn't probably the best decision for that. I would like to see her back away more, throw some jabs, maybe use her striking a little bit more, defend some takedowns, slow it down. Rebus got that head throw, and then she got the scarf hold. From the scarf hold, it looked like Paige was about to get out, coming up on her knees. I thought she was about to take the back, but Rebus – yeah, she went for like some crazy step over to a mount, but ended up catching the arm bar. And then she got the arm in one of the worst places you can get it.
With the guillotine lock upon it, yeah.
Yeah, like
fully extended it.
Yeah, and that's just, you have all your hips against that arm, and any which way they go. Paige could have jumped over, but I'm glad she didn't, because Paige is like surgery after surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been another surgery. She definitely would have got her arm broke.
Definitely a smart tap. Hebus is not somebody she's a pit bull. She would have held onto the arm for as long as she would have had to.
Yeah, Hebus is great. And, Hebus, just the fact that she beat Mackenzie Dern not too long ago, told me that she has the skills to beat another high-level grappler too. So, we'll keep our eyes out on for Rebus. We'll definitely keep our eyes out on for Rebus as somebody who's really going to make waves in the division.
Yeah, I got to say she's one of my favorite up and comers in the female divisions, just because of not only her talent and ability, but just her demeanor and how much fun she is to watch in her post-fight interviews. Like, she is just so silly and so fun, and adds a genuine level that I think MMA really hasn't seen as far as in their drama. In the WWE drama of the UFC, because let's be honest, most of the enticement is in the fights. We're all happy about that, but we do like the drama. I'm not gonna lie, I love some of the drama that's out there. It's good fun. Speaking of drama, let's go ahead and talk about the hole that was left by TJ leaving and what that's done to the divisions currently. So we're when it comes to like the featherweight and bantamweight division, we just got a champion in one of those finally after over a year of vacancy. TJ Dillashaw comes back January 2021, so that's less than 6 months away. We have Aljamain Sterling, who should be in the mix, but Dana White just won't say his name. He's doing the Usman, where somebody even mentioned him in an interview recently, and he's like, "What about Aljo Sterling?" And he was like, "Who?"
Don't do that, White. Don't do that.
Don't do that. You know who Aljo is. Give him his chance. What do you think? It's Aljo's turn? Do you think it's his time?
He's primed for it. If I look at the bantamweight, you have Marlon Moraes, you have Aljo Sterling, you have Cody Garbrandt at 3, Corey Sandhagen, you have Pedro Munoz at 5. I personally like Pedro as the guy who is going to be fighting for a title. I like Aljamain. I do like Aljamain. Aljamain should definitely be next, after Marlon Moraes. Marlon is a guy that I think would be an absolute war with Peter Yan. It'll be a great
And let's not forget, he technically won that fight against Jose Aldo.
Mm-hmm.
So he's technically the guy before Jose.
Yeah.
I think that just kind of just shows what a middle finger the ranking system can be in UFC every once in a while. Just because, Bossman was like, yeah, he technically won the fight, and normally I'll go with that. But it just wasn't convincing enough to me, so I'm going to go ahead and give it to this guy. But it's understandable because, that's pretty much Aldo's last run at a title in the foreseeable future. we've tried at multiple weight classes. We've tried against multiple opponents. Do you think it's time for Aldo to call it? Do you think he's going to be a gatekeeper
No, I
for a
mean, I
while?
don't
What do you
think it is. I mean, the performance that he put again on Peter Yan, um, you know, barring the last couple rounds, he looked like a championship level fighter that he is. The fight that he put on against Marlon Moraes, really, the fight that he put against Marlon Moraes really let me know that Aldo still has it. Just because for me, Marlon Moraes has been like the best guy at 135 for a while. If I look at like a guy who is a total package, he has some of the best leg kicks in the game besides Edson Barboza, who his training partner is. Amazing hands, and Aldo had a freaking awesome fight with him. Just a battle. So I wouldn't have Jose Aldo, hanging up. Maybe you put Jose Aldo against Pedro, or you put Jose Aldo against Corey Sandhagen, and then maybe give him another shot. If he can't win his next shot, then I'd say hang it up because he is still young. But yeah, that division's just fire, man.
And when you talk about the holes that were left by Dillashaw and Cejudo, it really just left kind of like a power vacuum in the rankings.
Yeah, and Dillashaw is like, who knows what's going to happen with him? You take 2 years out of the game with a game that evolves like this. That's a real big question mark. What's he going to come back like?
But at the same time, he also did have 2 shoulder surgeries in this time. So a lot's also to be said about maybe taking some time off to actually heal your body. Not a lot of fighters get a chance to hit their prime, collect their belts, and then actually get some time to heal. That's rare. Normally you ride the championship out until you lose your belts, and then you're like, all right, finally I can rest for a little bit. But he's catching some R&R halfway through his prime. Who knows? Because I mean, Moraes, I agree with you. He's one of the most dangerous fighters at the weight class for sure. With the amount of power he locks in, with his angles, with his timing, with his speed. Jose Aldo proved to us that he still has the speed, but Moraes did a good job of neutralizing Aldo's speed, which says a lot for how fast he is. But as far as like a full package, I don't know. I don't find his grappling to be as convincing, especially in the weight class, because you got some killers in there. I mean, you saw how quickly Aljo took care of his last fight. That was super impressive. Super impressive. So I think we're going to see a lot of fights where maybe not the assumed best fighter is going to win in the next few in that weight class, where I think it's going to be a matter of matchups. We got a lot of specialists again. It used to be just, all right, enough of the specialists. It's all be well-rounded. And when that happened, everybody's like, no, let's go back to specialists. Let's get some knockout artists back in here and spice it up. So, yeah.
I mean, Peter Yan, Marlon Moraes, Cody Garbrandt, Pedro Munoz, Jose Aldo, Rafael Assunção, Jimmy Rivera. A lot of those guys are very similar in styles, and any of those guys can beat any of those guys on any given day. They're so similar. But Aljamain Sterling is the one guy who's a wrestler and who has something that is kind of the X factor. He's funky. He gets in there. He does some crazy shit. He has the subs. He has that athleticism. He's now would be considered a veteran.
And his striking's not bad. His clinch fighting is better. His dirty boxing and his tie clinch is really strong, as naturally it would being a wrestler. But his striking is not something to sit on the couch for either. He's really got some talent. But I think that he's got a lot of trouble ahead of him. I mean, all of them do. And we're not even talking about the number 20 with a bullet, Sugar Sean O'Malley. I mean,
yeah,
you got to imagine that at some point in these next coming months, he's going to start nipping at the heels of Jimmy Rivera and maybe catching up to Cody Garbrandt because they're talking shit too. Where do you think Sugar Shane is going to fit in this fold?
The problem with Sugar Shane is he's just untested against a top 10 guy. Like if you put Sugar Shane against one of these guys, he's like he might have one of the components to beat them, but he doesn't have the others. You know, I don't think that Sugar Shane could last 2 rounds with Aljo. I think Aljo would submit Sugar Shane. I think Pedro Munez would submit Sugar Shane. You know, it'd be very fight and it'd be tough. Now, if you look at the top 15, yeah, like you put Sean O'Malley against like a Dominic Cruz and he beats Dominic, then I'm going Sugar Sean. Was it Sugar Sean?
Sugar Sean.
You know, too many S's, you know. You know, you put him against like, you know, okay, Dominic Cruz, okay. Now I'm listening. You put him against Jimmy Rivera, and if he beats Jimmy Rivera, Jimmy had a great fight the other night.
Yeah, he did.
Then I'm looking. Then I'll say, you know what, Sugar, go up in the top 5. But he could if he beats someone in the top 10, yeah. Then I'm looking at him as a contender. But I'm also kind of scared for that because I think it might be a little too soon.
Yeah. You don't want to derail a hype train too soon. I mean, look what happened to Askren had a huge hype level coming into the UFC. I mean, Robbie Lawler with controversial victory. Not a lot of people were convinced. And then, you know, of course, the downfall that ensued from there. You know, a hype train can be dangerous, especially for fighters to come in. But luckily, Askren is a veteran. Sean is just he's a relatively new blood. He does have a fight signed. That's coming up on the Miocic and Cormier card. And he's going to be fighting a fighter named Marlon Vera. Not a bad fighter. He's got some credits to him. He doesn't have a lot of notable credits. However, he did have a pretty good fight not too long ago that he lost to, who is it? Yodong Song. I think his name was a Korean fighter.
Is he the Brazilian guy, or is that Chico Vera?
Oh, was I looking at the wrong one?
I don't know. No, I'm just wondering because there's two Marlon Veras. There's
I could have been looking at the wrong one. To be honest, that the reason that happens is because I don't know who Marlon Vera is. Give Sugar Sean somebody who's worth it. Come on. I feel like they're doing the same thing with him that they are doing with what's his face? The big guy. Former tight end. Greg Hardy.
Hardy, yeah.
I feel like they're doing the same thing with Hardy that they're doing with Sugar Sean that they're doing with Hardy. I feel like they're overfeeding the hype train, giving them too much hype, so that I feel like we're being set up for potential disappointment. Like he's proven he's got some skills. He's had 2 really impressive outings. Give him a top 20, a top 15 maybe. But we're getting another. I mean, I'm not complaining. I feel like we're probably going to see another awesome knockout. So I'm pretty stoked about that. I've got no problem with that.
The problem is really when I look at Sugar Sean's victories, the guys that he's beat really aren't. I mean, some of the guys aren't even in the UFC anymore. Eddie Wineland was a great fight, finished in round 1, but Wineland plays right into that style. Actually, I'm happy with the UFC. You know, he's getting a lot of his high level experience in the UFC right now. They need to keep him fighting every 2 months, build him up until he's ready, so they don't kill the hype train. I kind of like what they're doing with him.
Now, normally I'm on board with that, but he did have that 2-year suspension on that stupid, funky drug testing that really kind of put the brakes on the hype train and made us wait even longer. It's like, at a certain point, enough is enough. Give us what we want to see. But I do agree. He is a really young fighter, and to get this much attention this early on, it's probably best to temper his time. I agree. That's a really good point. We got to think about longevity of the fighter, as well as the fact that, you know, if Sugar Sean really is supposed to be the next Conor McGregor or the next, you know, big bill fighter coming up, you know, we might want to protect our investments, keep them around a little bit longer. I mean, we see what, you know, punching a top bill fighter in the head too many times does. They start punching senior citizens in bars, and you think that's a Conor McGregor joke, but I'm looking at you, Mike Perry. I got on your side last show. All right, I was totally on your side. Now you're out there hitting middle-aged men, dude. What am I supposed to say about that? That's some Florida shit, right? You get your ducks in a row. All right. Before we close out, let's talk about some of these fights coming up pretty soon, and let's talk about what we think is going to happen, because we got some big fights coming up the next couple weeks. Let's start by talking about Darren Till, Robert Whitaker. That is going to be a slugfest.
Yeah.
Darren Till changing weight classes, fighting at a heavier weight. That's only going to add to that dangerous power he's got, and I think he's going to be a faster man in that division as well. Whitaker looking for a win. Last fight was Adesanya, and that didn't go his way. And he looked shocked that fight, and I saw he seemed somewhat vacant. He didn't really seem like his usual self. I know he had spent a lot of time recovering from the fight previous. I know, anybody who fights Yoel Romero ever is never the same again. I think we can all agree that you fight Yoel Romero, you're never the same person ever again. You're a different human being.
Yeah, dude. When you're fighting, you're fighting Yoel, you're fighting Jacare, you're fighting Gaslam, you're fighting all these guys. It's hard for the middleweight fighters, man. Injuries. I think he had a bout with staph. He had a bout with different injuries.
He had that herniated intestinal lining too. That was a big one.
Yeah. But I'm going to go with Whitaker on this one. I think Whitaker has a great style. Whitaker is the total package. Whitaker has jiu-jitsu. Whitaker has it really, really figured out to the point where I think he knows how to outpoint Darren Till. If he just doesn't get caught by Darren Till, I think he'll beat Darren Till.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're looking for the money line on this one, Whitaker is definitely the smarter bet. I would say if you're looking to actually make some money off this fight, Whitaker would be the strong bet. I would probably say a 5-round fight for Whitaker. I don't think he's got the power to take Till out. I think the way that Till wins this fight is if he makes it just a sloppy one. If he clinches up on him and hangs on him, if he bullies him around, uses some of that strength he's got, if he's able to really clinch up with him and get an arm behind his head, I think he's got a good chance of outworking him. I mean, Darren Till's not really known as a worker, but he's not going to have to cut weight as hard as Whitaker is going to. He's not. I don't feel like he's as threatened by Whitaker as a striker. Whitaker's going to have to earn his respect because Darren Till, I think, is the superior striker in this situation. Not in terms of technique, but in terms of power. Whitaker may have a little bit more technique, but Till's got that light out power, and that's something that you always have to respect. I'm going with my money. I'm going with Whitaker. If I'm going for if you told me somebody got a fight of the night bonus, I would say it's a Till win. That's the difference in that fight for me. Yeah.
What about these guys putting down $200,000 on George Masvidal?
Man, at a certain point you're playing odds because you're like, all right, well the odds on this one are 4-1, so the payout will be a little bit heftier. And if you keep betting like that and you have the pool, you'll eventually win. And you could break out even, but most of that is just gambling addiction, as well as a high level of income. So we're talking about people who are monsters of the economy. We're talking about the Robert Whitakers of the stock market making those types of bets. Yeah, that's insane. I can't even think about that. That, especially in today, like with how things are going on today, it makes me a little sick.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, it's a little discomforting, disconcerting. But it's their money and it's Vegas and it's America. If you want to bet $200,000 instead of building a playground, by all means. All right, so we have Shogun Rua and Rodrigo Nogueira are going to fight. That looks like a fun one. I'm really looking forward to that.
Nogueira and who?
And Rua.
Oh, Shogun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, That should be an interesting one. I mean, normally I'd be like, who is coming back? Ooh, he's a little on the older side. I'm a little worried for him. Who's he fighting? Rodrigo Nogueira. Oh, this is great news. This is wonderful news. You don't have to worry about any of your favorite grapplers getting horrifically knocked out. I mean, maybe Nogueira. I think Hua could still got that lights out power. But the more I think about it, the more this fight intrigues me. I don't think Hua's going to want to get into the grappling world of Nogueira, and I don't think Nogueira is going to really want to play with the striking abilities of Hua. This is going to be. The more I think about it, the more I get tickled. What do you think, man?
That's pretty awesome. Haven't they fought before? It seems like they've fought before in the past. I feel
I think
like
it was Minotauro that he fought, if I'm not mistaken, but not Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Could be wrong, but that's what I think.
Yeah. So Rogerio,
sorry, excuse me.
He's they're both great boxers. Rogerio is a little better boxer. He boxed on the Cuban national boxing team in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Rogerio's fought in a while, but neither has So that's just that could go either way, man. That could go either way. I'll go with Rogerio on that. Based on the way that Shogun just kind of just went for broke the past couple times, and his fight mileage is so, yes, I mean,
and you can see the post PED effects. I mean, is there something to be said about the early to mid 2000 fighters of the performance enhancers, especially a lot of the Brazilian guys, and Hua was one of the ones where he was pretty obviously affected. Where let's not be afraid to talk about what happened in the sports history. He's a legacy fighter who's been there long enough to have rode the wave of it. But I mean, I think Hua was one of those fighters, kind of like Vitor Belfort, where the second those rules changed, you really saw a drastic change in the fighter himself.
Yeah, Vitor, Vanderlei, yeah. So that's the type of thing where that fight could go either way. He hasn't really looked the same. I don't think Shogun's going to have a second win. I would actually like to see Shogun retire after this fight. Shogun Rua. He's had a great career. Hats off to him. Fought the best of the best. Had some of the best fights in the UFC and Pride. And just a legend in the sport.
So you're saying win or lose, retire?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, lose. I want to see Shogun retire. And
what if they both retired at the same time?
That would be amazing.
It was like, I quit. And it was like, yeah, me too. All right. We got a few more and then we'll call it a night because we're getting close to that hour mark. All right. Fabricio Verdum and Alexander Gustafsson. I'm assuming they're fighting at heavyweight because I don't think Verdum's going down. And I don't think Gustafsson wants to make that weight cut again. That one is fascinating. Great reach advantage to Gustafsson. But, I mean, let's not count out Verdum's ability to just completely pretzel a human being no matter what their size. How do you think that happens?
Anytime a guy goes up to heavyweight and goes up in weight, there's question marks, right? Can he handle the power? Can he keep his movement in the heavyweight division, and can he use his movement and his speed and make it his advantage? Against a guy like Verdum, I think that Gustafsson has a better chance at winning that fight than another guy, let's say like a Volkov. Goes against like a Volkov, a really precision striker who hits hard, who's heavy, who knows how to play the game, the striking game. Verdum's a better matchup for sure. And I haven't seen too many great things from Verdum lately. You know what I mean? Did he beat the boa constrictor, the Russian guy? I can't remember if he beat him.
Yes, he did, but it took a while. It was a deep water fight.
Okay. Yeah, and the boa constrictor, I mean, he's a ground specialist, and I think if Gustav can stay away, use his speed, use his jab, circle away, I think he wins that fight. I don't think Verdum's going to be able to like take him down or pull guard. I think Gustafson's just better than that, and it's kind of cool how Gustafson's kind of doing what John Jones wants to do, and he's kind of doing it before.
Yeah, he's paving the way for him, ironically.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. What do you think about that fight?
Ooh, I think Fabricio has seen his best days, unfortunately. He was one of my favorite heavyweight champions because he was the most unassuming. A lot of people didn't expect much from him that those couple years on his climb, and he proved everybody wrong. I loved his approach. I love Fabricio Verdum, but I think Gustafsson has a pace that he's just gonna lay on him. He's just gonna keep him at distance with that jab cross combo that he runs. He stands at southpaw too, so that just increases his ability to keep that distance. I think he's going to use a lot of teep kicks. I think we're going to see a lot of poke kicks and teep kicks from Gustafsson to keep him from getting anywhere near the hips when it comes to any type of takedown. He's going to throw a lot of midsection kicks, a lot of distance. He's not going to get in the clinch a lot. I think he's just going to distance fight him and pick him apart for 3 rounds. So I'm going to say 3-round decision for Gustafsson. I don't think he finishes him.
Mm-hmm. Same here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we know Fabricio, I mean, just like any other heavyweight, you get him to halfway through round 2 to round 3, you're gonna make it a tough night for him. He doesn't have that championship round tank left anymore. He's getting older. It's understandable.
Mm-hmm.
All right, 2 more fights to talk about, and we'll call it a night. Junior Dos Santos is coming back, and he's fighting Rosenstruck.
Ooh.
I like Rosenstruck in this fight.
Uh-huh.
And most people are disagreeing with me, but I don't think they're paying attention to what's been happening in the heavyweight category. What do you think?
Yeah, man, JDS is the type of fighter where I just want him to win so bad every time. I want JDS to win, and he comes up short on a lot of these fights. And then sometimes he'll just end up knocking a dude out that you don't expect. So I'm going to go with Rosenstruck. I think they're on 2 different trajectories right now. One guy's going down, one guy's going up.
Now, interesting though, Vegas favors Dos Santos 150.
Yeah.
So this might be your money line bet. So anybody who's watching, if you're looking to make a little extra bump on the odds, the Dos Santos Rosenstruck coming up August 18th, I believe it is, or 16th, 15th. That might be your ticket. I'm not a betting man, but if I were to bet, I would say that's a good one to go. And then last but not least, of course, the big heavyweight trilogy is finally coming to a close. August 15th, we get to see Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier in the final showdown. Don, what do you think is going to happen?
Wowza, man, that's a tough one. Jeez, man. So that's such a crazy trilogy because whenever DC decided to start poking Stipe in the eye, all of a sudden he started winning fights.
Yeah.
You could clearly see that he's utilizing the John Jones eye poke, and it's just crazy, But DC's a competitor, right? DC will do anything to win. And I'm just kind of wondering what's Stipe, is Stipe training? Is Stipe what's Stipe doing right now? How hard? I don't know how hard they're both training. I haven't seen much out of them, so it's hard for me to call that fight. But if I was just throw something out, I would go with Stipe on that one because I think it was kind of BS that DC ever won that due to those eye pokes. I feel like he poked him in the eye, capitalized, and then finished him off there. I don't think it was a technical thing. I think it was an eye poke, and I think Stipe was too respectful to really say what happened.
Awesome. I think DC is going to win this fight. I'm glad that we disagree on this. It's something we could talk about for weeks coming up. So I think DC is going to win this fight based on the fact that Miocic, I don't think has been training. It looks, following social media, it looks like it's almost obvious he hasn't been training. His whole entire backbone of the argument of him not fighting is the fact that he hasn't been training for fighting. He's only going to get about a 6 to 8 week camp, a 6-week top camp for this, and he hasn't been training in the off season. He's been going back to work as a firefighter, as a first responder, where we need him most. Most understandable. I like him more than DC. I'm not gonna lie. As a human being, I like Miocic more than DC, just because DC is a very competitor-minded human being. Like you said, he'll do anything to win. And Miocic is a humanitarian. He's first responder. He's a fireman. He does things for his community. He loves his place in Ohio. He loves his people of Columbus. You know, it's something different for him. And I think ultimately, unfortunately, that's going to be why DC wins, is because he is willing to do anything, including talk crap to a person who's not ready to fight and do a fight. And I think that's going to be his biggest advantage, is the mental game. I think he already won the mind F part of it. So I think by getting Stipe to sign the fight on his terms. So he's already losing the fight, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but is Stipe really training the way that the media portrays? I mean, these guys have coaches living at their house, you know.
Right. You have coaches, but do you have training partners? And that's the biggest thing, because Stipe doesn't leave his hometown for training. He brings this camp to him. And having the coaches is great, but if you don't have the partners and the full camp because of the pandemic, you know, that's only a piece of the puzzle. However, Stipe's the champ for a reason. He beat the crap out of DC the last time they fought. He beat the crap out of him. Like, it wasn't even like, it was a fight, but it was his fight, 100%. But I feel like DC is going to tire him out early on, because he knows that the camp could be a factor. But who knows? That's why it's a fight. That's why we're paying to see it. I'm stoked.
It's going to be a great one. They always have great fights, man. They had a great fight. So let's see how that goes. My money's on Mr. Stipe. So if you have $200,000, you're ready to bet on it. Share, baby.
Make sure you first sponsor our podcast for a meager $500. We'll give you something. We'll make it worth your while. Well, anything you want to add, Don?
No, man. Just let's see how everything pans out with the UFC. Let's see how it goes. And everybody, thank you so much for watching and listening to us on these fights. And really appreciate anybody commenting and liking this, because, hey, this is my life, you know, jiu-jitsu, MMA, and this is what I love talking about with a good friend. So we just love to have you guys listen. So thank you so much.
Hell yeah, Don Stoner. Go ahead and let the public know how they can find you in your Jiu-Jitsu Academy. Give us your social media stats.
Yeah, so D Stoner Jitsu LWJJ. That's my Twitter handle. You can find me there, Don Stoner Jiu-Jitsu, Lone Wolf Jiu-Jitsu Academy. If you're in the Portland area, come by and train. You'll have to wear a mask and stay 6 feet away from me. But other than that, no worries. You'll still get some good training in. So Lone Wolf Jiu-Jitsu Academy, Don Stoner Jiu-Jitsu. If you're watching Submission Underground, stay tuned, because August 30th, we have a card coming up, and I'm really trying to get on that one. So,
I saw that you were trying to push for a match with Diego the Dream, the Nightmare Sanchez. Is that still on the pot? Is that still potential?
Oh yeah. But will Diego take it? It's the question, man. I need that. I need something that's gonna get me into the training room and help me get through these grueling workouts 2 times a day.
Well, his last fight was a war. I'm sure he would love a jiu-jitsu match in between that and his next fight, because that last fight he had was a war. He's an older guy too. His body's probably hurting. It sounds like the best time for him to do a competitive jiu-jitsu match. Let's blow this up on social media. That would only, you know, make you work harder and make our podcast more legitimate. You can find me on social media at Chino Bra, ChinoBrah. That's at Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all that good stuff. If you want to contact me, that's the best way to do it. Make sure you check out my friend Don Stoner at his tags. Make sure you keep following me. I got some more stuff coming up in the future. Until then, guys, thanks for tuning in. Have a good night. We'll come back after the next event and we'll talk about it more. Aloha.
Aloha.